Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Kanga TV, home of North Melbourne fans. And just like that, another football season has come to a close. A resilient North Melbourne going down by 13 points to Adelaide Crows at Marvel Stadium this afternoon to round out what has been a wild season, to say the least. North Melbourne 15, 10, 100 to Adelaide 17, 11, 113. And 12 months ago, we sat here and watched our season end at the hands of Hawthorn by 124 points. And the week before that, we lost to the Bulldogs by 96. And we've spoken about that a lot here on the channel this week and over the past couple of weeks. And to win last week against Richmond by 8 goals and to put in one hell of a fight back in that last quarter against the Crows this afternoon, a win is all that's ever acceptable, and a win is the only thing you should ever be looking for at the end of the day in football. But I would take the ending of this season 9 times out of 10, 10 times out of 10, every day of the week over the fortnight that we had to end season 2024. And when I think back to 2024, our grand final was round 22 against the West Coast Eagles. And we looked like we had that game wrapped up at halftime. I think we led by as much as, 7 or so goals at various stages of that game. And to be 3 goals up with 90 seconds to go, just to lose it, thanks to an Oscar Allen goal in the dying seconds in Hobart, it ripped the soul out of the remainder of the season and out of the football club to end the year. And we left just being ready to wipe our hands clean and move on from what was a very forgetful end to season 2024. So to be sitting here 12 months on, finishing the year in our last 2 games 1-1, and coming out on top last week in what many believed was our grand final against Richmond, same venue in Tasmania. That is just one display of how far we actually have come. And we will have the next 6 months to dissect every element of season 2025. And I intend on doing that here on the channel. But just on a first thought and a first reflection, sitting here a couple hours after the game is over, there's definitely a lot of pride and there's definitely a lot of comfort knowing how this year has ended in comparison to last season. And you sort of start to dare to dream about what's possible for this football club in 2026. No doubt there'll be some big changes that will be made, some already made yesterday upon the announcement that Emma Carney and Patch Adams, 2 assistant coaches for the AFL side, will be finishing up after today. And that will be followed by on-field changes, no doubt as soon as early next week, I would say. We have a lot of work to do, but it's a lot of work to do with potential and a lot of work to do with positivity and hope for what is to come next season and the future for this football club. It's not one of despair and it's not one of anger or heartbreak that we felt 12 months ago. It's been a season full of up and downs, and it's been in many ways an unfulfilled season. There were so many opportunities there for the taking that we just weren't able to grasp, but hopefully with the right personnel on and off field, heading into 2026, we can take another big scalp again towards improvement and towards success and a new era for the North Melbourne Football Club. And a 13-point loss today to Adelaide probably doesn't do our performance justice. We could have won that game. And at 3/4 time, 26 or 25, 26 points the margin, you kind of felt like it could go one of 2 ways. Either we lay flat and let them run all over the top of us, the same way many sides have this season and over the past few years? Or do we accept the challenge and rise up to it and throw everything we have at the premiership favourites? So to take the second option and to play fearless and exciting footy, we knew we had them at the clearance. We won the clearances all day. And so for us to be able to get the ball out of the centre of the ground and hit up different options each time going forward. Our forward line is looking so dangerous. And for the first time in what feels like years, we're actually unpredictable when we go forward. Sometimes we look for Curtis. Sometimes we look for Darling. Sometimes we're looking for Trembath. We've got layers and we've got dimensions that don't feel like they've been there for quite some time. And it just feels like things can really start to work. We saw Jai Simpkin on a wing today and he dominated that wing. And he finished his season off on a real positive note. I sat here and criticised Dylan Stephens last week. Well, he sure shut me up today. It's the best game I've seen him play for 2 months. He was awesome. I love the fight and the heart of Zach Banch. And whether he is on the list next year or not, I hope that we can all find a little bit of that willingness and that fight within us each time we take the field. I thought that Tristian Xerri forced his way back into the All-Australian conversation. What a dominant performance. 25 touches, 12 tackles, 7 clearances. There's actually nothing that man can't do. And what about Cooper Trembath? What a find. He's gone from playing local footy 6 months ago to kicking 3 goals in each of his first 3 games at AFL level. And we've found Nick Larkey's partner in crime for the next decade. Paul Curtis showing everyone once again why he should have been in the 22 under 22 side. Freakish at times today. There's so much to like about this football club, and it's when they all work together is when the magic happens. And that's when we're at our best. It's when LDU's combining with Harry Sheasel and George Wardlaw. It's the way that Charlie Combin and Toby Pink and Griffin Logue, at some stages even today, worked as a back unit to cover each other. Maybe it's not all doom and gloom. And maybe there is a way forward for us. And I think we definitely saw some signs of that on display at Marvel Stadium today. While there definitely were positive signs, particularly in that last quarter, it's clear to see where the game was won and lost for the Crows. North having 57 turnovers to Adelaide's 48 for the game, and it was where some of those turnovers were made that just killed us. Adelaide's ability to turn the ball over in our attacking 50 and transition the ball from coast to coast so quickly and so easily. We were so often caught ball watching at times, and I mean Adelaide's 3-headed monster in Walker, Thilthorpe and Fogarty. I did think that our defenders did try really, really hard to compete with these guys, and at times we actually were able to get the win and win the contest and move the ball back towards our attacking 50, but the Crows made it look so easy, particularly portions in that first quarter and in the third quarter. The third quarter we were actually going goal for goal, and I thought that maybe we could match them. But it just sort of felt like every time we did something, they hit us with the instant reply. And I think for us, we really do need to work on our intensity when we do turn the ball over in our forward 50. I thought the inclusion of Aiden Core forward was an interesting move by Clarko, and you could kind of understand what he was trying to do. We lost Cam Zerha to injury after the game against Richmond, and his pressure and his tackling inside our forward 50 alongside that of Constanti and Paul Curtis is excellent. So I understand the intention and understand what Clarko was trying to do. I I don't know if the execution was all there, to be honest. But Jacob Constanti's pressure inside our forward 50 was excellent. However, he does need to work on his goal presence and his ability to stop thinking and just do. He had 3 behinds for the day, and they were in crucial moments as well. He should have started us off with a goal in the opening 30 seconds of the game, and then a couple of times later on in the game as well, just wasn't able to ice it. And you felt like by that third shot that he took in the last quarter, mentally he would have just been absolutely in his own head and really, really doubting himself. But this is the difference between players like a Paul Curtis and a Constanti. I understand that the ceiling for each of those players are a little bit different, but it is a discussion point in my mind. It's the difference between good sides and great sides. Great sides have 2 Paul Curtises, whereas a good side, which is probably where we are at the moment, has 1 Paul Curtis and 1 Jacob Constanti. And if we could find a way to bring out that goal presence and the ability to nail his opportunities more often than not, then I think he could be a really lethal weapon in that forward line. But right now, what he has in defensive ability and what Cooper Harvey has in attacking ability sort of need to combine to create the perfect player. And that player could have been Geordie Payne, but unfortunately he was subbed off in the third quarter today. He just couldn't back up the promise that he had shown over the past fortnight, and I fear that maybe his inability to have an impact on today's game straight away could spell the end for him, and it is really disappointing. I thought that he was excellent last week against Richmond, and he was really, really good in his debut against the Giants as well. But he's one of these guys that probably just needed to take every opportunity that came his way over the past 3 weeks and not really put a foot wrong. And he had shown a lot over the past fortnight and maybe just wasn't quite able to top it off today. Cooper Trembath, on the other hand, well, we've definitely found a player in him. He was absolutely unreal. Another 3-goal game. He had 3 goals too. He could have had 5 for the day. He's definitely put himself in the discussion for a Rising Star nomination this week. 9 goals in 3 games, and what a find he has been. I think he is just absolutely electric, and what I love about him is he's courageous, and I think that's something that when you compare to potentially the likes of a Nick Larkey, he isn't afraid to jump and throw himself at everything. You've got Jack Darling, who's physically imposing in the forward line, as is Bull and PC, and then you've got Cooper Trembath, who is following the same lead. We found a player in him, and he's a real diamond for us, and I just hope that we're able to continue bringing this out of him as the years go on. I want to talk about the leaders because our leaders really stood up when we needed them to today. Luke Parker in the middle of the ground was absolutely inspiring, and his creativity and his willingness and ability to drive traffic, and not just on the field, but when he was on the bench as well, barking instructions and so encouraging, and those words of positivity were ringing through Marvel Stadium. He had 27 touches, 5 marks, 5 tackles, 10 clearances. He was joined by captain Jai Simpkin, and Jai Simpkin, like I said, owned that wing like he was made to play that role, and I think there's a potential there for him to be able to settle on a wing even next season. 33 touches, a team high, along with 3 clearances, a tackle, 8 marks, and 736 metres gained, which I believe was the most on the ground, at the very least the most for North Melbourne. Harry Sheasel, again, not quite the 54 and 2 that he had last week, but he was instrumental. And what about Tristian Xerri? He is absolutely in the box seat to take home his first Sid Barker medal, and he should be back in the conversation for All-Australian ruck as well. He just dominated this game today, and he absolutely made it his own. I mentioned it at the top, but 25 touches, 35 hit-outs, 7 clearances, 12 tackles, 3 marks. Just absolutely monstrous in the middle of the ground. And it's his synergy with our midfielders that just unlocks something that is almost becoming our superpower. We dominated the clearances, and I understand we spoke with Dylan earlier this week from Proper Crows podcast, and he pointed out that Adelaide's weakness has been clearances, and you could see today where their strengths lie. Their ability to catch teams out on the rebound off the halfback and transition the ball so quickly to that 3-headed monster up forward is quite impressive, and there's a big reason as to why these guys are flag favourites and minor premiers for season 2025. But for us, our clearance work out of the middle and the way we were able to, in particular the last quarter, just use those clearances effectively. I think that's been a massive thing for us, is our inability to make something of the clearance. We win the centre clearance, then we turn the ball over in the middle of the ground, but we were able to effectively move the ball into our forward 50 time and time again today, lowering the eyes, trying something different, a few long bombs on the run. We went at 53% scoring efficiency once inside 50 today, and that's almost got to be some sort of record for us this season. We also matched Adelaide in inside 50s for majority of the game. There's just so much to like on the back of this game, but the result, just about. You never want to accept an honourable loss, and that's definitely not what we're here to do today, but the green shoots were very prominent today, and as I said, there's definitely a lot to like about this side, and there's obviously players still missing, but we have a lot more answers and a lot more pieces of the puzzle now by the end of the season than we had to start it. I also do want to make mention of George Wardlaw. George is a universally loved player, not just amongst North Melbourne fans, but across the competition. However, I think at times this season, in between all of his injuries, he probably hasn't been playing to the best of his ability. Plenty of games where he's had 10, 11 touches, going at about 50% disposal efficiency, but I think his past few games since coming back from his concussion has been awesome, and I thought he was once again so influential today. 9 tackles to go with his 4 clearances and 18 touches. He did kick one behind, but I just really love what I've seen from George in the past few weeks, and the consistency that we've had has been unreal as well. I absolutely love George Wardlaw. We all love George Wardlaw. I think that's a given. But this is the sort of football we need to see from him week in, week out. His presence is enormous, and he doesn't necessarily have to have the big numbers. He doesn't have to have the 25, 30 touch games every single week, but he seems to have tightened up his kicking, and he seems to be making much better choices. His execution of the football has drastically improved over the last few weeks, and he is being able to get his hands on the footy a little bit more as well. I think with some more support in the middle of the ground defensively, we'll be able to see the best of George Wardlaw for years to come as well. I definitely think that last quarter in particular is one that will be watching on replay for a while. 4 goals in 6 minutes between the 12 and the 18-minute mark, and you often wonder why we don't come out and play like that a little bit more often. We really did look at this game and we didn't lie down, and I think that's the most impressive thing for me on the back of today. And I think that last quarter is why so many of us will be sitting here at the end of this game feeling pretty elated and fairly satisfied. I don't think that anyone is happy with the result, but I think our ability to look at that game in the 4th quarter and think, no, let's just have one more roll of the dice and see what we can do, is a huge shift in mindset. You know, so many times this season we've either faded late into the game or we've been unable to start as the first quarter kicks off, and we spend way too much time late in the games trying to catch up and grasp victory from the jaws of defeat. Today was probably the first 4-quarter performance we've put in all season. Even last week against Richmond, they kicked 6 goals in the last quarter. The win against Carlton also came home with a wet sail and almost ran over the top of us. But this, for me, was our most well-rounded and well-executed performance of the season. And if you're finishing on that note in season 2025, then, like I said, there is so much to be optimistic about, and there is so much to look forward to ahead of next season. And you really feel like that mentality and that mindset is something that you can build with. At the end of the day, this is an AFL side. We are playing the best level of football in the country, and the skills, for the most part, are there, clearly. It's all up to mentality. And if we can start to tell ourselves that we actually are good enough. We didn't lie down in that last quarter. We looked at that and thought, no, we can rattle them. We can really win this game. And honestly, we could have. We really, really could have won that game. Should we have won it? It's a different story, and there's plenty of reasons as to why we didn't win the game. But for the most part, we're the reason that we have lost so many of these close games this season. It's silly turnovers and it's poor decisions, or it's one handball too many. I think there is a lot to like, and there is so much to work with that we can put ourselves in a position next season we can really see a significant climb up the ladder. I think destiny is now in our own hands, and we would much rather that than be helpless and not have the answers and not have the resources or the tools to fix them. We acknowledge where we're at, and we really need to now lock in and look at the changes we need to make on field, off field, move the magnets around a little bit, bring in some personnel that are going to really help us charge up the ladder. It's possible. And today definitely reaffirmed that for me. Now it's just time to get to work over the off season. It's crazy to think just like that the first season of AFL football is done and dusted here on Kanga TV. I didn't know what to expect walking into this, but it has been the most amazing experience and a real honour and a real pleasure to be able to share this platform and this season and supporting this football club with all of you at home and at the games. And I really, really hope that next season is even bigger and better, not just here on the channel, but for the North Football Club as a whole. How are you all feeling at the end of today? How are you feeling at the end of the season? Feel free to leave all of your thoughts in the comments below. We can obviously keep the conversation going over on socials as well, Kanga TV Show, over on X, Instagram, Facebook, and email. Deep breath. That's the season done and dusted, and no doubt we will be dissecting every element of it and every element of the off season here on Kanga TV. But for now, I think there's a well-deserved rest ahead for all of us. I can't wait to see you all very, very soon. I've already got so much planned for the off season. You guys know me well enough to know that by now. And I can't wait to share all of it. The trade, the draft, the highs and the lows of season 2025, and looking ahead to season 2026 with you all here on the channel. But for now, take care and I'll see you soon. Go Roos.